Wild Card Weekend, January 4th, 2016. You're listening to the Line Sports Talk Podcast. Your host, TL, Pepper Jack, the Big Cheese, and Joey Peeps. We're all going to sit down and break down Wild Card Weekend and find out what the hell's going on. I know, speaking from the Raider fan perspective, it wasn't what we hoped Wild Card Weekend would look like. I know that I had visions of sitting back and waiting to find out who was going to come to O.co and see who the Raiders are going to play. Instead, we're heading down to Energy Field to take on the Houston Texans. I am less than thrilled. But that's it, and there's more to come. So, Pepper Jack, Joey Peeps, what's up, boys?
Well, playoffs is like we talked about yesterday. Playoffs are finally here, except the first game sucks. We'll talk about that. But other than that, I think we're in for a good one. I think hopefully after how this season's been, that we can finally get we can get what we wanted all year long.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I've watched football for the last 45 years. I think that this year, and I think Joey Peeps will concur, this year's season was probably the worst that I can recall. I mean, the games aren't even exciting. Too many penalties, too many challenge flags. Yeah. Too many. Did the ball cross the plane of the goal line? Or, it's not like the old days of smash mouth football with Marv Hubbard or Mark Van Egan or Larry Zonka. It's just not even entertaining anymore. And I think the NFL is
terrible matchups in prime time. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible games this year. You have to force yourself, unless you have a stud left on a Monday night game. You don't even watch it. If you have fantasy implications, that's the only way you'll watch.
Yeah, I found myself losing interest pretty easily throughout a lot of these, and like Peeps just said, too, the Thursday night games did nothing to prime the pump on a Thursday night like it once did. It just doesn't make you interesting. But you can have all the color rushes you want. I don't care what gold the Jaguars are wearing against the Smurf-colored Titans on Thursday night. It was a bad product they put on the field this year. Let's hope the playoffs deliver a little bit more.
Yeah, Thursday night, those games, I'm kind of like on the fence. I don't think I want to see, as much as I like to watch football beginning Thursday, I don't think that you get any value out of anybody on a Thursday night, because you got guys banged up from the previous Sunday, who don't have enough time to recuperate to be available on Thursdays. And then you got, you just got crappy games, because I don't think that the coaches can insert a game plan that does anything exciting.
Yeah, it almost seems, I don't want to say half-assed, but it's half-baked. They just don't have time to get it all done in the oven and serve it up on a Sunday like they normally would that extra couple days.
Yep.
You're right. It's a bad plan. I like the idea of, Thanksgiving Day games have been around forever, and that should never change. But yeah, the Thursday night game looks like to me it's got to go. Would you be okay if they moved one to Friday night?
Maybe, I know, yeah, Saturday. I was about to say Saturday, but then I remembered college football. I don't know. I just leave it, maybe just leave it to Sunday, and albeit the Thursday night opening week, there's nothing wrong with that, nor is Thanksgiving football. But
yeah, I think opening night, you're right. That's a good point. I think opening night Thursday games, you can get away with that all the time. I think.
Let me ask you this, riddle me this: how many of you have watched a Tuesday night college football game?
Very rarely. Very rarely.
I don't know. I kind of get into Bowling Green versus Kent State. It's kind of, those are some there's some rousing matchups there.
Yeah, that's usually an issue because the game always sucks. It's always, Chattanooga versus FIU or something on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, Akron even played on a Tuesday night during the season. I didn't watch them, and I'm from Akron, so I'm not a big fan of that Tuesday night college game. I don't know. I think Thursday night NFL has to go.
I think Akron football is kind of just like a leisure activity for the students.
Well, maybe you get more in high school games sometimes.
Probably so. Well, let's get rolling into this so we're not here all night kicking around how miserable that first game on Saturday just might be. But it is what it is, and we got to cope with it. So I'm going to change my tune and be a little bit more upbeat. This is the first time since 2002 we've had the opportunity to see the Oakland Raiders in the playoffs. I would hope that Rich Gannon could have just stretched out and hopped on the field and maybe jumped in and taken over this weekend, but that's not going to happen. So Saturday, January 7th at 4:35 p.m., the Oakland Raiders will break their playoff drought and travel to Houston to take on the Houston Texans at Energy Field. The Raiders are a 4-point underdog. Over-under here is 36.5. The money line is important to mention here. The Raiders are at plus 175. Houston at minus 225 for those who aren't familiar. A money line play, the team has to win outright. So if you take the Texans to win this game outright, you have to bet 225 to win 100. If you take the Raiders to win it outright, you can bet 100 to win 175. So that's what those mean. And going forward, that's it, man. Raiders are a 4-point dog, 36.5 over/under. Who wants it?
Go ahead, Jack.
All right, here's my take. Okay, I'm a Raider fan. I've been a Raider fan for 45 years, ever since the days of the Mad Bomber Darryl LaMonica. I was pumped up all season for Raider football. I knew that we were going to the playoffs. Unfortunately, we're going with a third-string quarterback this week in Connor Cook, a local boy here from Walsh High School. I think the only good thing, the only good thing to come out of this for the Raiders is the fact that they're playing probably the worst football team in the playoffs because Houston has been completely unimpressive. I've been unimpressed by them pretty much all season. They play in a very weak division. They don't throttle anyone. They have a horrendous quarterback situation also in Houston. I'm looking at the computer pick, which I find hard to believe. The computer has Houston winning this game 27-14, which would, number one, go over the lowest total, I think, all season, 36.5 points. Raiders, I think, are going with the rushing game. I don't know if they trust Connor Cook enough to let loose. He did look decent in the second half against Denver Broncos last weekend, so I do have a little bit of hope for this weekend for the Raiders. I'm going low scoring. I'm thinking Sebastian Janikowski's the difference. I see the Raiders pulling out a 16-13 victory.
Boy, I sure hope that you're onto something there, Pepper. What do you think, Peeps?
I was very, 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 very excited for your Raiders this year because I thought this would have made it. I mean, I know this is real relevant at this point, but to see Derek Carr, you think about all the elite, maybe aside from Drew Brees, all the elite quarterbacks are in the playoffs. And then now that you would have Derek Carr in this game, it's just really a shame that because this is a game the Oakland Raiders with Derek Carr go in there and I think win handily. Well, but that not being said, I got to make the realistic pick here. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to win this game 21-13. I don't think it's going to be a very good matchup. Houston can play some good defense, and it might be just too much to ask young Connor Cook to go in there, not having any really real-time experience, and probably not too many reps in practice either. Come to think of it, so I have to go Houston 21-13, even though that kind of disappoints me to say because I had high hopes for the Raiders.
Joe, I think you bring up a couple good points. One is well, hell, I forgot, but you definitely mentioned some good points. I'm a little dumbfounded by the whole situation. I'm shell-shocked. When Carr went down, I cringed. My butt puckered. I probably started shaking. There may or may not have been a mild seizure on the couch. It's just a really unfortunate break for this kid and for this team and for the fan base and the franchise that we don't know how long they're going to hold on in the city of Oakland. It's just a tough break. So now, as bad as Houston has been, they are a playoff team. They are a division winner. They are headed up by Brock Osweiler. I don't know who I was going to rather see this week, Osweiler or Savage. We had talked a week or so ago, Joe, that Houston had to make the decision in all likelihood to go with Brock Osweiler, regardless of how healthy Tom Savage was. If you take Osweiler out of here, you're essentially saying we have no trust in you going forward. You're not going to start our first playoff game, and you're gone, and you're going to eat that contract. So, yeah, Osweiler starts. This Raider team defensively has really, really improved. They've taken their knocks. The secondary's not wonderful. David Anderson, Sean Smith have both had their share of beats this year, but overall, this team has gotten better defensively. Khalil Mack is an absolute superstar, potentially the defensive NFL MVP. I hope that he is enough to take over this game and rattle Osweiler early. Houston pretty good against opposing offenses all year long. The defense is really what their strong suit has been. But I'm going to play the role of the optimist here, and I'm going to say that our beloved Oakland Raiders find a way on the ground to win this game. I look for guys like DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard to be really, really involved. Don't count too much on Cooper and Crabtree because you haven't been able to, even when Carr was healthy the last 4 weeks. But I think the Raiders do find a way to win this game. Pepper Jack, I'd like your thinking with Sebastian Janikowski. Not a lot of points here, but the Raiders find a way to win it 14-10.
And just to elaborate a little bit, I think you made a very good point about the defenses in this game, because I think it's going to take some turnovers in order to get either the Raiders or Houston on the opposite side of the 50-yard line. So I'm with you. I think that there's a few I think that Jack Del Rio's going to have them fired up. I know they're behind the 8 ball, losing their leader in Derek Carr, but I think it's time for Khalil Mack, the Khalil Mack show this weekend, and I really hope that he can be a force and they can force some turnovers, and that's going to lead to Janikowski field goals and a Raider victory.
I'd say so too.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Hey, I was just going to say that is what the Raiders really need to do, is just tell Khalil Mack and some of those boys to say, look, we're going to make this guy beat us. Just go. Just pin your ears back and go at him. See how he handles it. I agree. I think that's their best strategy.
And defensively, they're a lot more than just Khalil Mack. Bruce Irvin has been tremendous. He's had an All-Pro, Pro Bowl year. Defensively, they're very good. Mario Edwards should be back and healthy, and he plays well. Up front, Dan Williams has had a really, really nice year as well, plugging those gaps. They got to shut down Houston's running game. Houston's also defensively not great against the run. They were like 20th against fantasy offenses, fantasy running backs this year, so they are susceptible to giving up a couple big plays and some ground gains. I don't think the Raiders are going to get hammered. I don't think back. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Do you think the Raiders safety, the rookie Carl Joseph, is going to be on the field this weekend? Because he's another one that's a headhunter.
He is. He makes a difference.
Stir things up. Yeah.
He makes a difference, and I'll tell you why. When you watch him, you don't watch him as much as you hear him. He really, really does lower the boom. He hits people, and I haven't seen that in a long time in Oakland. But when you start hearing those pads clacking and he's thumping people over the middle, he's thumping running backs, they turn the corner and get popped. It changes the way players play when they know somebody is going to hit them.
Right.
And that's another good point. Look, we're going to find all the positives about how the Raiders can win this game. Maybe not why, but how. I think it's important to note that this is a 12-4 Oakland Raider team. They won a lot of football games, but this team is really an 0-1 Raider team going to Houston. It's just almost impossible to judge, especially based on last week. Matt McGloin got thumped early. They went against a great Denver defense. That's still a great defense.
Your quarterback is the most important player on your team, and they lost their heart and soul.
You're damn right. And that was the point you brought up, Joe, that I wanted to compliment, that all of these elite quarterbacks are still in the playoffs. And that has a tremendous amount to do with where your team is and how they can survive.
And it would have been nice to see DC in there, but, that's the thing I worry about with young Connor Cook, too, as far as his offense. I wonder how many reps he's had in practice. And I doubt he's had many. Not at all.
Well, Del Rio pulled the trigger early in the week, though. He
did.
I think he started game planning Monday with Connor Cook in mind. So.
Well, I'm more so talking about during the course of the season. I don't think he had a lot of reps.
No,
right.
I don't know that, but one could speculate.
But I'll tell you what.
Will we see Garrett Gilbert on the field?
Is that? I was going to ask you. That's the $64,000 question: is who is the backup this week? Is it Garrett Gilbert?
Garrett Gilbert was signed by the Raiders this week. Yes.
They brought him up from the practice squad then.
Gilbert Grape. No, actually, they just signed him. You're right. He was on the practice squad earlier in the season. They were released, and they re-signed him this week, and he will be our number 2. What's eating Garrett Gilbert? Great.
Crabtree is the emergency number 3.
Right.
And if it comes down to that, it's over.
Yeah, and I see Michael Crabtree is missing a gold chain.
Yeah, how you like that? He got busted up by Aqib. Aqib,
you know what?
Straight up burglar.
Only Aqib Talib. That's all I can really. That's all. Only really I want to really go into it, but only him. But I wonder, if you're Michael Crabtree, what are you wearing a big gold rope that as you're playing? Yeah.
That's it. I agree. I caught hell in one of these chat rooms. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to. It wasn't a chat room. It was a Raider forum where people were pissing and moaning about Aqib Talib doing that. And first of all, you don't need to wear a giant gold chain on the football field. Stop it.
You remember in the NBA when they wore like 12 or 14 chains at a time?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay.
Was that Moses Malone?
It was ridiculous. It was almost like watching HVC on a basketball